It is 7 o'clock. I call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Mr. Mayor, can you do a roll call vote or a roll call attendance, please?
Sure. Councilmember Mock.
Present.
Councilmember Henry.
Present.
Councilmember McKnight.
Present.
Councilmember Sayre.
Present.
Mayor Johnson.
Present. Thank you. Welcome, everyone, and thank you to tuning into tonight's meeting. We value our residents and community members, and even though our doors are temporarily closed during business hours, which they are no longer, we're back open, to protect you all, we want to make sure that everybody who wants to participate in these meetings and provide input still can do so. State statute allows the city to conduct meetings by telephone, and the council recently took action to allow our city council and commission meetings to temporarily take place remotely during this pandemic emergency. As you'll see, 2 of us are back, and we have 2 council members who are participating remotely for tonight's meeting. This meeting will be open to the public, but remains the precautions as set forth by the Centers for Disease Control, the Minnesota Department of Health, and Carver County Public Health should be exercised. Alternatively, participants can join into this meeting and provide comments remotely via Zoom conferencing services. Zoom is a free service and can be accessed via the following. On your mobile device, you can download the Zoom app in your App Store on Google Play. On your desktop device, you can log into zoom.us. If you're going to call in, you can call in at 929-205-6099. When you are prompted for the meeting ID number is 836-3053-8265. The password is then 975358. So once again, the number you dial is 929-205-6099. The meeting ID is 836-3053-8265. And the password is 975358. For anyone joining us by phone only, please be aware of these important instructions. We are broadcasting and recording this meeting live. You will also need to watch the online broadcast if you would like to see any visuals presented during the meeting. The link is under upcoming meetings on cityofcarver.com. There could be up to a 1-minute delay from the Zoom conference call to the online broadcast, meaning it could be up to the broadcast, what you're seeing on TV could be up to 1 minute ahead of what you're watching online on the city's website. Please mute any external devices like your TV, music, or computer speakers to avoid distractions of addressing the council. All participants calling into the meeting will be muted until citizens' comments are recognized. You will be prompted by the mayor to speak at the appropriate time. Lines will temporarily be unmuted when the mayor calls for public comment. We ask that anyone wishing to address the council ask to be recognized, be respectful, wait for your turn to speak, and don't speak over one another. It is important that all council members and members of the public be able to hear each other and the discussion, so please speak loudly, speak clearly, and speak directly into your phone or microphone. Please listen carefully to the mayor's cues. Callers wishing to be recognized must speak up to get into the queue when prompted by the mayor. Callers will still need to provide their names and addresses for the record. Finally, different from our usual process, all actions of the council will be taken by a roll call vote, and each will repeat their name for the record. This is a new process for us all, and we thank you for your patience and constructive feedback as we work through this unprecedented situation. We are working hard to ensure your voice is heard while maintaining everyone's health and safety. With that, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Make motion to approve the agenda.
We have a motion by Councilmember Henry. I'll second. And a second by Councilmember Mock. Any further discussion? Great. Mr. Mayor, can you run us through a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Henry.
Aye, Glenn Henry.
Councilmember Mock.
Aye, Christy Mock.
Councilmember Sayre.
Aye, Laura Sayre.
Councilmember McKnight.
Aye, Joy McKnight.
And Mayor Johnson.
Aye, Courtney Johnson. Thank you. All right, community comment for anything not on the agenda. Can you tell if there's anyone? Nobody? Okay. So since nobody is on the WebEx, we will go through that and not allow for the 1 minute delay. Moving on to presentations and reports. Let's start with our website redesign project kickoff with Jordan Carnes. Jordan?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm pleased to introduce Jordan Carnes with Civic Plus. As we were getting, as you know, the council approved the website redesign and reconstruction at a previous meeting, and so prior to staff really working with Jordan and the Civic Plus team, we asked Jordan to present at tonight's council meeting, give you a basic overview of Civic Plus, and then provide an opportunity for the council to set some expectations and goals for the process. So with that, I'll let you carry it or take it away, Jordan. Thank you.
All right. Hi. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you very much. We are very excited to be working with the city of Carver on this project. What I would like to do is just do a quick background on Civic Plus, and then just talk about expectations and kind of what the process is going to be. I'll leave a few minutes at the end for questions. Try to screen share. All right, so just a quick background on our company. We specialize in the creation of government websites and a lot of other software products for cities and counties. We only work with local government, don't do any commercial contracts or anything like that. We are a fairly medium-sized company, I think. I think that we are large enough to be able to offer a lot of resources to our communities, but we're also small enough that we understand, that every single client that we have is very important to us. And we have, as we have scaled, we have always scaled, I think, very appropriately to never have more than 10 or 12 clients per employee. We have, grown very organically, just being able to offer our clients, the products and services that they're specifically asking for. We have over 4,000 clients across all of our different product softwares nationwide, in fact, worldwide. We do specialize in government websites. Of our over 4,000 customers, 3,500 of them are website clients. We have also, a very quickly growing company. We've been listed on the GovTech 100 and the Inc. 5000 for the last 9 years running. That's the top largest growing 5,000 private companies in North America. One of the things that I think that makes us very unique is beyond websites, all of our products are uniquely part of a single platform that we built. So you're always able to grow into an ecosystem, a software ecosystem. But even if there's like third-party products, we always want to be able to integrate them into a solution, but you never feel like you have to have siloed software stacks. This is, obviously the direction that the future is going, to be able to engage with citizens and local government digitally, and we offer an entire platform for that. One of the things, specifically talking about the website, I'm not really going to talk too much about some of the modules that staff will have access to. I'll get into that a little bit. But this is not just a content management system. Civic Engage is not. We're going to build a website, but it's an entire communication platform, a place to house documents with robust search capability. It's an alert system. It is an online fillable form system. It's going to, I think, offer a lot of expanded capabilities beyond just something like a WordPress content management system. I'm just going to show some examples of clients, specifically in Minnesota, that we have worked with. We are also very, very cutting edge as far as accessibility, security. We really want to stay on the very cutting edge of that to offer all of our clients, some of enterprise grade services. We work with clients. Our very largest client is Maricopa County. It's the 4th biggest county in the entire U.S. And then our very smallest client is a town in Utah with 500 residents, and everything in between. Really want to be able to offer every single client, very top of the line products and services. Specifically, when we're talking about security, we do invest over $1 million a year just in our security platform. That is something that I think is unfortunately never going to go away, as far as worry about possibilities of denial of service attacks as a form of protest or anything like that. We make sure that we are at the very, very cutting edge of that. One of the other things that we are going to talk about too is that this is really a very future-proof solution. We are constantly upgrading the system at no additional cost for our clients. There's quarterly rollouts for enhancements, and we'll also be able to redesign the website, again, for no additional costs every 4 years that you are with us, just to stay, just to stay fresh. This is just an example. I took us some screenshots of some of our clients, or even websites from, this was in 2014, can start to see just a little bit dated. It's very interesting how quickly things can go from fresh to dated in the technology world. So we want to be able to keep our clients at the very cutting edge of that. Any questions on it? All right. So if not, what I'd like to talk about is kind of what we're going to do next steps with staff. We are going to go through implementation. So what this is a approximate 16 to 28 week process where we're going to initiate the project, go through design, architecture, and then really go through configuring the site. This is going to be a fresh website built, completely custom. There is nothing cookie cutter about this whatsoever. This is going to be a way that you can, this is going to be the digital doorstep for the city of Carver online. This is going to be the first thing anybody in the world comes to, and they see, the city of Carver. This is kind of where you can tell your story. Give people who are visiting the site a feel for the community, and also be able for them to find the services that you're offering quickly and easily. So we're going to we're going to kick off, and then we're going to, a project manager on our team is going to engage with city staff, and we're going to go through our 6-step process from initiate to, to design and configure all the way to launch. Projected launch date is still at the end of this year, but there is a lot of deliverables on both sides of the team to get to where we want to go with that. So really what that means is, I hope that wasn't boring going through just a quick presentation. We really want to get you from where you are now here to where we have helped a lot of our clients. I did pull up specifically some clients in Minnesota that I have personally worked with. One of the things that I do want to talk about is the capabilities beyond just a traditional website. The first thing is going to be the ability for anybody to come to the site and sign up for Notify Me. What Notify Me is beyond just text and email alerts. It's actually an entire automatic listserv where people can come and sign up for alerts. Companies can sign up for bid postings. People seeking employment can sign up for jobs. People who, residents who want breaking news from the city or calendar events. What's nice about this is it keeps content fresh, but also when staff updates any part of this website that's connected to Notify Me, it's automatically going to give staff the ability to push those notifications out to anybody who has signed up for those things. It's not a catch-all, a shotgun approach where you send out notifications to everybody and you send out too many, people start ignoring all of them. This is a very easy way for people to sign up for information from the site. And it also kind of encourages people to come back to the site, sign up for things, and when they see content is being published and is being, fresh content, it kind of gets people in the mentality that I bet I'm going to check the website. So it really helps grow the website organically, that people can rely on that as a source of information. Beyond that, it's also a way to offer online fillable forms. This can be an employment application, a full multi-step employment application from beginning to end, where you can, it can be as basic as you like it or as complex as you need it to be. For example, it can be a pet license. This can be volunteer forms, utility departments. This is a full drag and drop form builder. Again, I just want to kind of impress on that there's a lot of capabilities, and we want to make sure that everybody's going to take full advantage of what we can offer our clients. One of the biggest things I think is when we're talking about information architecture, information may be housed on the site, but if it's hard to find, it may as well not be there. So there's a lot of ways that we make recommendations, not only to migrate content, but also how to organize it. we think that a really good way to organize it first is through mega menus instead of drop-down menus. People can get lost. Give people multiple pathways to the same information. Quick links, quick graphic links to do a task. Or, look at it from a services point of view, a department point of view, an elected official's point of view, from a residents and visitors point of view. There's a lot of different ways that we will organize the site, but again, there's no technical limitations on how you want the site to look. This is really going to be up to you to how you want to present the city of Carver that way. As far as what is going to be, responsible on the staff side, we're going to do 95% of the work. We're going to migrate all content from the existing site to the new framework. Train staff, there's full support. There's 24/7 phone support. We have Zendesk integration, so there's chat, internal. We really want to set staff up for success. But the 5% that we're going to need, staff and then the council members for is how you want the site to look, how you want to be able to offer that, offer that information, and is also, how you want the site to look as far as pictures. You always can change out pictures. You won't have to, you can always change them out seasonally. We have a lot of clients that do that. But, how you want the site to behave, how you want it to look, how you want to tell your story that way. The other big thing that I think is really important too then is a lot of clients like to kind of hide the search bar up in the corner, but we always recommend drop it right in the middle. A lot of times people really want to be able to find information. That's the easiest way to do it. Everybody's familiar with the concept of Googling something. This is not a Google search. This is a custom internal search that uses, that we built that scrolls the entire site. These can be set up to be predictive, and this will also automatically grab staff, pages, any documents that are uploaded onto the site that people can easily and quickly find information that they're looking for. There's also the ability to have really advanced search where you can search by specific types of content. But you really want to be able to give people multiple pathways to find that information. As far as some other capabilities, just from the staff side, there is over 40 modules within this. I just barely touched on a lot of them, but I just want to impress on you that this is, a huge upgrade, I think, from where you are, just from conversations I've had with staff earlier this year, from where you currently are. So this is an opportunity to really be cutting edge. At this point, I think I would open it up for any questions or comments, if there's anything I can answer quickly.
All right. Thank you, Jordan. Any questions, comments?
Brent, did we find out about this website just from our neighbors, Victoria? I see they're on there. Is that where we kind of searched first and saw that they were using it? Did they have any feedback about it? I mean, no system's perfect ever, but this one looks great. Do they have?
I haven't talked to anybody from Victoria specifically, but a lot of our guys you saw, Victoria, Chanhassen, and I believe Chaska also maybe using them. I know the administrator well in Badness Heights, they've had success with them, but it was more a familiarity. There wasn't anyone saying don't use them or they're fantastic. What stood out for us for Civic Plus is that they were by far and away the most responsive folks that we engaged and had calls. I've been working with Jordan for a number of months now, actually kind of prior to this last push, and phone calls have always been returned within a day or so. And for our team, Brenda Good is going to be leading this project for us, and just having that on tech stuff, when you don't have somebody who follows up with you or lets things drag out, it can be an overwhelming kind of situation because you don't know how to fix it. So that was our primary indicator of a successful partner is how they responded. Then I think the technology speaks for itself.
Yeah, will you remind me, is this something that Brenda goes in and uploads our information, or is it information we send to the host and they upload it?
For how it's used now?
So when we want to put new information on there, some update that we want to put on.
It'll be designed so that our team does it. And that's how it is now. It's just the tools that Civic Plus has for that uploading and kind of website management are a lot more user-friendly than our current system.
Okay. So does Brenda need to go through any extra training for that, or how is that going to work for her?
Yeah, we'll do, it won't just be Brenda, but we'll have some layers on our team, probably Vicky, maybe Diane, Schwalbe, all want to know how to operate it as well, but we'll have probably a handful of folks that are able to upload information, but probably just one like single source of contact for like the main guts of it.
Okay, thanks, it looks great.
Lori or Joy, any questions, comments? No from Joy? No, okay. Jordan, I think my only question, I think you kind of went over this, is that, you know, my struggle with our current website is it is almost unsearchable. And you really kind of went into the searching, but it'll be able to pull words out and be less of a keyword search, correct?
Correct. Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of different ways that we can set up the search, whether or not you want previous searches shown publicly or not. It is a fully predictive search, and it will grab any type of content, whether it's on a page or a document, and people can be, and people that come to the site can actually search for it and be able to narrow that down. This will grab everything in the site, not just, the way that the content management system works is it'll automatically grab keywords, so it's a smart search function.
Okay, great. Thank you. I don't think we have any other questions. Mr. Merrick, do you need anything from us on this? Okay. All right. Thank you, Jordan. Appreciate you taking the time to run us through that. All right. Moving on here, we have a library.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Yep. Have a good night. All right. Moving on, we have a library update from Heidi Hawks, Library Director. Welcome, Heidi.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm always excited to come and talk to you about the library because I love the library. I've loved libraries since I was a little girl and still love them. They're wonderful places. So, state of the library, talking to you a little bit about what's happened in 2019 and a little bit about what's happening now. Little bit different slant to it, but we've been very excited to offer all kinds of services to all of our libraries, and especially to your Express Library in Carver. And when we talk about libraries, usually in counties you have one library that serves the whole county, at least in greater Minnesota, and people drive in for miles to that library. But for us here, we actually have multiple libraries. We have 6 full-service libraries and 4 express libraries that serve our 100,000 residents of Carver County, and we're very proud of them. And besides what we have in our collection to serve those libraries, we also have collections from libraries across the state, across the nation, and if it's a really unique piece, we have been able to get them from out of the country. I remember the time we got some music, special music from Norway, and that was a wonderful, wonderful piece for us. And what does that mean in the long run? Well, those 100,000 residents of Carver County last year checked out over 1 million pieces of material. Of that, a little over a third were checked out at Chanhassen, 25% were checked out at Waconia, 20% at Chaska, and everything else kind of evened out amongst all the rest of the libraries. And it always starts with a collection, a great collection that's very well tended, that people staff are adding to specifically popular materials. They're really looking at what the people want, and they keep adding to that. And you'll see down at the bottom, there are all kinds of different materials we have, from books to DVDs to CDs to books on CD, but we also have digital content, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. But right now, if you look at the Express Libraries, in 2019, Carver got up to 1,183 checkouts. Carver, the last few years, has been our lowest circulator. It is no longer our lowest circulator. Only Victoria exceeds Carver, so we're very proud of that. And
We'll beat them next year.
You'll beat them next year. That's a good attitude. The other thing that I think is unique about Carver is that we have people from all over the southwest metro area that come to Carver to the library when it's parked out by the Southwest Transit Station when we have the bus story time. So people from all over come for the bus story time. They will call us on the phone at the system headquarters and ask, when is the bus story time going to be? Because they can't wait to go to the bus story time with their children and with their grandchildren. So you're becoming well known for the bus story time. I told you I was going to talk to you a little bit about digital content, and this is where I'm going to talk to you about. When the COVID-19 hit and we ended up closing down very quickly, I was called, I think, about 11 o'clock and told that we were closing down by 2 that day. It was difficult to try to figure out how we were going to serve our patrons. That's what our staff wanted to know. How are we going to get things to the people that we normally serve? What can we do? And our staff is very customer focused. And so as we looked around and we were staying at home for that first bit, we also started advertising our digital content, our ebooks, our e-audiobooks, our e-magazines. And people who didn't know about our e-materials suddenly started to learn about our e-materials, and suddenly they wanted to have everything on ebooks. So we were able to get some money from an account we have at our Regional Library System Services office and turn that over into ebook collections, and the circulation, which had always been going up at a steady rate, suddenly just skyrocketed. And we realize now that these people, our ebook readers, are not going away. They are going to keep wanting new e-materials, and so we're going to have to figure out a way to get more money to put into that e-collection so people can be Jammy's customers and can download a book and listen to it late at night when there's nothing else that they want to see on TV, and they just want something good to read or listen to before they go to bed. So we're very excited about that. That's been one good thing with the COVID. Some other things that have happened with COVID have been the fact that people haven't been able to get in to see us. So what we established was curbside service. People can call in, get the book that they want, it's put in a bag for them, and they come to the library, they call when they get there, and the book is brought out to a table in the bag, and then they get to come up to the table and take it home with them. It's already been checked out, everything's been done with it. So they can still get their books. And we also just recently established computer access, so people can come in and use the computers, can apply for jobs, can write resumes, can go into their email. There are a lot of people that use only the library's email for their email. And so that's been there. And what we're looking at tomorrow morning at the county commissioners is perhaps having a walk-through service established where people can grab and go. So they can come in, go down our shelves, find books that they want and grab them and come up, check them out, and go on their way. So we're looking at all kinds of different ways. We can't open up fully yet, but we're looking at different ways that we can help people get what they want. You'll notice in the annual report that was sent out to you in your packets, on the very back it said, visits to the library, to the libraries in Carver County, 533,596. When you think that we have 100,000 people in the county, and there are some that come multiple times, that's still a great number because 87% of our county residents have library cards that are active. That's a great amount when you consider what the percentage is across the state. So we're very proud of our library system. We're trying to make it the best that it can be. And our public tells us that they love us. For example, one woman said, I just moved here from New York City, where my nearest library branch was 5th Avenue and 42nd Street. Your facility and your staff far surpass in terms of serving the community. Thank you. And then I love, love, love my library. You call it an express library, but I call it mine. And this library continues to impress me. You can find everything from research to Harry Potter, and now you have coffee. Woman after my own heart. This community library far exceeds where I came from. And I had to put in the last quote. I know that I've had this quote for a few years, but I like all kinds of berries, but my favorite berry is the library. That was from a little kid. I hope that the library is your favorite berry as well, and that you'll bring people who haven't been to the library to one of our many libraries so that they can see what they can get free of charge just by coming in and getting a card. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Any questions, comments? Seeing a head shake.
Oh, thank you.
Lori, got anything? Any questions? Okay. Well, thank you. I am one of your Jammies customers, and I have really enjoyed. I've got the app. I was on my phone last night, and Zach was asking what I was doing. I'm reading a book on my phone. So for me, it fits my lifestyle, and really it feeds into my inner introvert, where I can get as many books as I want without having to leave the house. So that's been great, and that's been even more awesome with all the COVID stuff. So thank you guys so much for coming.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
All right, let's see. There are no public hearings tonight. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion by Councilmember Henry
I'll make a second.
and a second by Councilmember Sayer. Any further discussion? All right, Mr. Mayor, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Councilmember Henry,
Aye, Glenn Henry.
Councilmember Mock,
Aye, Christy Mock.
Councilmember Sayer,
Aye, Lori Sayer.
Councilmember McKnight,
Aye, Joy McKnight.
and Mayor Johnson.
Aye, Courtney Johnson. Thank you. Motion passes. All right, let's see. Moving on, no unfinished business. For new business, we have 9.1, the street reconstruction plan, establish a public hearing. Does that go to you first, Brian?
No, I'll let Paul Steinman take that.
Okay. Mr. Steinman, good evening.
Good evening, folks. Everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
So I'm going to, if y'all are looking at my memo, I'm going to use my memo as kind of an outline for this presentation. I can put it up unless if you're not looking at it, otherwise I'll go forth. So the memo that's in your packet, basically we're wanting to describe to you what is all included in your 2025 issue, because there's one sort of special detail there that we want to focus on. So that's the purpose of this memo and this presentation. So your 2020 issue is proposed to include up to $4 million in general obligation bonds to pay for your share, for the city's share of the JCP project. $4 million is the proposed maximum amount. It may be less than that, depending upon other potential sources of revenue. And in addition, you're proposing to issue approximately $1.95 million of basically utility bonds, general obligation utility bonds. Again, if you remember way back when my bonds 101 session that everybody raved about, these numbers will all be combined. It'll look like one large bond issuance in the amount of, in this case, $5.95 million. But but each of these bonds will be issued under different authorities. So the borrowing authority for your bonds related to the JCP project, those will be general obligation street reconstruction bonds. And we're going to focus primarily on those for this discussion because they require a sort of a unique set of circumstances that we'll have to go through. And I'll walk you all through that. The utility improvements, I should say that the street reconstruction bond portion, again, up to $4 million, will be repaid with levy dollars. The utility bonds are not repaid with levy dollars, but they're repaid with revenues from utility funds. So on the street reconstruction bond portion, again, that portion that would be used to pay for your share of the JCP project. By statute, you're required to publish a notice of your intent to issue these bonds. You're required to hold a public hearing, take public comment before taking action on a street reconstruction plan. That's item 2. So you must approve the street reconstruction plan, which is attached here to this memo that's in your packet, a draft of it. And then once approved at that public hearing, you must wait 30 days for a reverse referendum period to take place. And during that 30-day period, if you receive a petition requesting a referendum vote, then the issue will need to go to referendum. You won't be able to sell it as street reconstruction bonds. That petition needs to be signed by voters equal to 5% of the votes cast in the last general city election. So we're suggesting August 3rd is the date for the council to hold a public hearing on the plan. The public hearing notice that will be published in the paper is also attached to this memo. So let's go over then on page 2 the specific details of, again, just the $4 million portion of this issuance.
Mr. Simon, can I interrupt and just ask a quick question?
We have a number of assumptions.
Oh.
Yes, Fred.
The Mayor Johnson has a question.
Yes.
Sorry, I hate to interrupt, but we're kind of in the process. So my kind of question was, this seems like we're going through the process a little bit early, and while I appreciate the foresight, is it so that the timing would line up that if there was a petition for a referendum, that we would be able to have it this fall still, and that wouldn't delay the project?
I can speak to that. It's not so much when the election lines up. We don't want to be in a position, should there be a petition where Carver County is ready to go and we don't have our financing in order. And so it functions a lot, frankly, like the preliminary levy does, where the public hearing would set that amount. The public could have a chance to comment at that public hearing or petition if they so choose. And then so similar to the preliminary levy, you'd set that, and then in December you truth in taxation, and then you make that final decision. And so you'd end up making your final decision on what to bond for whenever that project is going to be bid. Frankly, we're not, and Dan, maybe you can speak to this, we're not anticipating the project is going to be bid before the general election this fall. So really what you're doing is approving a financing option. Now the council could go to Paul and say, we're not comfortable with street reconstruction as a financing tool. We want to use abatement bonds, or there's probably some other financing tools that are out there. This is what we arrived as the best one, but we're likely not in a position, and I have to maybe defer to the city attorney of if we got the petition, considering the timing right now, when that would go to referendum. Larry, do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. I do have thoughts on that. If the public hearing's August 3rd, you get the petition in September, I don't think we can meet the cutoff to get it on the November ballot. I mean, I'm giving you that off the top of my head because I wasn't prepared for that, but my gut, there's certain specific dates that trigger notices that have to get to the county auditor for ballot questions, and I think we will have missed it.
Okay, but a special election is just that and could be held.
Yes,
in
and
December or
special elections, there are certain statutory dates. There's
Okay.
4 through the year, and yes, we could do that.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt, Paul.
No problem, Mayor. Thank you. Thanks for the question. Maybe I just add on to that, but we won't formally start the bond process until after the 30-day reverse referendum period is complete. Just to save time and effort in the event that you do receive a petition. So another reason that we're starting early. So let's just talk a little bit about the impact of $4 million issued to street reconstruction bonds. We made a number of assumptions in our structure that I'll only call your attention really to, well, do a couple, I guess. We're assuming that it would be over a 20-year term. Again, the issue size of $4 million, which may be less. And we also used today's rates plus some padding, because the market may shift by the time we get to October. So the preliminary structure results in an average debt service payment, again over the 20 years, of about $257,000 a year. And we use the table on page 2 of that memo to estimate the tax impact for different various property types at different estimated market values of those property types. And so we can see by this table that a residential homestead with an estimated market value of about $300,000 has converted in that tax capacity of about $28.97. A levy of $257,126 will have an impact of $118 per year. And this is just a snapshot in time. This is using that pay 20 taxable net tax capacities.
Paul, if I just add one kind of piece to that, that's the impact in a vacuum, meaning if that was the only thing that you added or deleted from this year's budget, that would be the impact of, I think Paul said $119, $120. But if you added additional budget items, the overall impact would be more. If you said we're gonna cut this and not fund that, then the impact would be less. And that was one of the issues that we ran into with the city hall financing, is we kept saying, well, will have an impact to your taxes, but the impact, the city hall, and in this case, Jonathan Carver Parkway, is a part of a larger budget, as you all know. And so I don't want the council or anybody watching or residents to think that their taxes, should this approve, should only go up $120 or land right on that number. It's going to be part of the whole piece of what the 2022 budget would end up looking like. Thanks, Paul.
Yep. Good points. This is just simply a snapshot in time, and so many things change that impact your levy amount. If you look at that table on page 2, you'll see that if you only levied $257,126, if that was your only levy, that would be an increase from 0 to 4.064%. So that's an increase. This bond in and of itself is an increase to your tax rate of 4.064%. So again, this is in a vacuum. So many things change. One of the things that changes significantly is your adjusted taxable net tax capacity. It has happened to increase every year for a number of years. Assuming some rate of increase in that, there would be a corresponding reduction in impacts to taxpayers. Again, just a snapshot. So, any questions about the table? We show some commercial industrial properties here as well, and some apartments here as well. Some tests for
Mayor, Council, just a couple other things. Tonight we're just asking the council to schedule the public hearing. When you get to the public hearing, I believe it's August 3rd. As a part of Paul's presentation, we're also going to be getting a presentation from Dan Lonis, the city engineer, and he'll run through the entire project again. I think that'll be a good exercise, not only for the council, but for residents. But even though $6 million is a large piece, there's a really good narrative that Dan will be able to explain really well what the county's contributing to this. And so that's why we're wanting to get ahead of financing options ahead of time, because before the council starts considering a joint powers agreement that the city attorney and the city engineer will be working on, we really want to make sure our financing is in order, because there are a whole series, as you can imagine, of decisions that the council will need to make and provide direction on as it relates to funding. Dan, can you give the council the total project budget again? Is it in the $15 million range?
Yeah, it's actually above that. We're looking at numbers closer to 17. So the city's share, although large, is still a smaller percentage, probably 40% of the project.
And some of these projects that we're funding through this, like the extension of Dahlgren Road to a city street, and some of the utilities, the work on Ironwood, those are 100% city. So again, Dan will be able to run through those. He did previously at a work session, but this will be kind of an elevated or kind of refined version for both the public and the council to again review in conjunction with what Paul will be presenting on the financing piece.
Good. Well, the only thing that I have to add to the presentation is that there's an appendix showing the public hearing notice that will be published in the paper, indicated August 3rd, 2020, public hearing date, time 7 p.m. And also the street reconstruction plan itself is appendix to my memo, and that also describes JCP project, this bonding process, and it has numbers in it as well. And this is the plan that will be presented again for the public hearing on the 3rd of August.
Paul,
I'm happy to take questions if there are any.
Paul, could you just run through again the distinction between bond counsel and the city attorney? This is probably the second time we've done this with this council, and I think it'd be important for them to understand the roles that Larry has and then Mary Ipple has as the city's bond counsel.
Sure. So the bond counsel just recently changed their name to Briggs and something else, but it's still years.
Taft.
She will be issuing the opinion of related to your bond issuance. So it's a specialized attorney skill, and so we call it a specialist for it. But the city attorney and bond counsel, often their roles kind of cover each other. And this is probably one of those cases because you have a public hearing, you have publishing of public hearing notices. You may have a petition process and different things like that. So, but your bond counsel really is just a specialized attorney related specifically to issuance of bonds. So.
Mary Ipple has been the city's bond counsel for 40 years. You've never met her. You never will. What matters is that Brent knows her, I know her, and Paul knows her. I've worked with her for my entire career. This is all, you don't need to see how the sausage is made. We just take care of it. Mary and I have already had one phone conference about some of the nits on this a couple months ago. I'll check in with her again. We just make sure it's done right.
Sounds good. All right, any questions, comments? Not seeing any here. I'm seeing head shakes online. I think, yeah, my one question was answered when I interrupted. So thank you, Paul. We will look forward to seeing you again in August.
Very good. we'll see you August 3rd.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
Have a good night, thank you. All right, with that, we need a motion.
Mayor Johnson, I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 126-20, calling a public hearing on the proposal to adopt a street reconstruction plan and the intent to issue general obligation street reconstruction bonds.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Mock
I'll second it.
and a second by Councilmember Henry. Any further discussion? All right, Mr. Mayor, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Henry,
Aye, Glenn Henry.
Councilmember Mock,
Aye, Christie Mock.
Councilmember Sayer,
Aye, Lori Sayer.
Councilmember McKnight,
Aye, Joy McKnight.
and Mayor Johnson.
Aye, Courtney Johnson. All right, motion passes. Thank you. 9.2, equipment purchase. Mr. Shell, tell us about a side slope mower.
So a side slope mower is specifically designed to mow steep surfaces. It can also mow flat grassy surfaces as well. Currently, with the ride-on mowers that we use to mow the levee, there's been several near misses, a couple of rollover accidents, and the side slope mower would allow public services staff to safely and efficiently keep the turf maintained around the levee, ditches, and also ponds.
All right.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the pricing for the side slope mower is $45,000 and $32 plus tax from state bid pricing. The purchase of the mower is planned for within the 2020 budget, $48,000 from the stormwater fund. Any questions for me?
Questions for Chad? Seeing head shakes. Lori, can't see you, so we'll assume maybe you don't have any questions. Oh, you're in and out. We saw you for a second. Okay.
Sorry. No questions.
No, and I'm good. This looks like a nifty piece of machinery, and if it'll make it safer for mowing the levee, I'm all for it. All right. Can I get a motion to approve the purchase of this mower? I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of a new side slope mower from Swanson Equipment Companies for an amount not to exceed $48,353.11.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Mayor Johnson and a second by Councilmember Henry. Any further discussion? All right, Mr. Mayor, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Henry,
Aye, Glenn Henry.
Councilmember Mock,
Aye, Christie Mock.
Councilmember Sayer,
Aye, Lori Sayer.
Councilmember McKnight,
Aye, Joy McKnight.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye, Courtney Johnson. All right, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, council.
Thanks, Chad. Have a good night. 9.3, the 2020 street maintenance projects. Mr. Lamas, you're up.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council here. I'm going to talk off the memo here. I can bring it up on the screen if you'd like, but for the most part, I'm expecting this to be fairly quick. So I was just going to give you a brief rundown of what was in your packet. But we were just going to chat about the street maintenance projects and what we chatted about in June a few times. So,
Excuse me, Dan, would you mind bringing up the figure drawings so folks watching online can see those?
yeah, absolutely. So I'll bring up what was in the packet. So. There you go. So you should be looking at a sheet that shows Kirchy Hill and High Street as a part of your packet. Normal summary of what we're talking about here tonight. So in June 1st, we talked a little bit about kind of a high-level 5-year plan for street maintenance, trying to identify some priorities and in what order would we do street maintenance if we had basically just a 5-year look ahead. And so we picked probably about 10 projects here, and then we identified the top So that one, we do not have pricing on at this point, so we got a different motion and action on this, which would be, authorize plan specification and bidding as portion of the project. The last time we talked about it, earlier in June, it was looked at as a mill and overlay. We've since done a little bit more digging on that, and do price comparisons on it. We typically will look at, how much pavement rehab is necessary, crack repair and things of that nature, and then compare that to if we actually put the pavement out, put back down again. If you get close to each other, on how much it costs to actually do a bunch of crack repair and cutting out pavement and put it back down before you do an overlay, I should say. If it gets close, the recommendation falls to reclamation instead, in which you actually grind up all the pavement and put it back down again as a new section. And since we talked in June, we did do that comparison and determined that we were very close to the cost of reclamation within a few $1,000s of actually doing a mill and overlay with a lot of stock repairs. So the recommendation on that is to switch from the mill and overlay to reclamation. Both the same price, but we have that listed in the packet at about $200,000 for this one. So what ultimately we'd have here is two actions. One, authorize William Mueller to complete work that was previously quoted for the Kerchie Hill and High Street area. And a second action, which would be to authorize plans and specs to obtain bids for Carver Creek Circle, and that would be a reclamation specification, which would take a pavement out and grant a pavement back. So this would be year one of the 5-year plan, which was identified in the financing model that Brent put together here last month. The cost of these two jobs together is $141,000 plus $200,000 estimated for what would be cleared up for Carver Creek Circle, and that is obviously pending results. So going into this, it's about $350,000 worth of work to start year one of, we'll say, any pavement management effort. So I'll just open it up to questions. This is things you're familiar with, worked with before. So any questions on this?
Any questions? Go ahead.
Dan, how many more years, or what type of longevity will the reclamation day or reclamation construction give over mill and overlay?
Well, reclamation is far superior. It takes out all the pavement and puts down all new surfacing. So I would venture to say everything that we do, we're seeking 10 to 15 years on repairs. And so the reclamation, I would say, would put us safely in the 20-year range, again, for what you'd expect for the new pavement. 20 plus years for sure, with how long some of the pavements have been out there. So I would give reclamation a good 5 to 10 plus years over an overlay circumstance.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Joy.
Can you remind me for Carver Bluffs Parkway beyond Carver Creek Circle, that section was mill and overlaid recently, like in the past couple of years, correct? Is that surface certainly is different than the portion in yellow in your diagram that we would be focusing on closer to County Road 40.
Okay, I don't know if I have the exact year that work was done on that.
Okay.
At the moment, that we went by pavement conditions, so we didn't
Right.
focus much on that particular.
It definitely looks different.
Yeah, Councilmember McKnight.
Yeah, it is better, and so yeah, we're keying in on the area that's deteriorating. So
Yeah.
it's newer and prepared for in a different way is what I can offer. So.
Okay.
Councilmember McKnight, I believe that was done about 5 years ago. We mill and overlaid Carver Bluffs Parkway from the park to, I think it's Ramsey, and then did sections of 6th Street West. If you drive on 6th Street West, you can tell where those sections are milled and overlaid as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That was my only question.
Lori, any questions?
No questions.
Christy? No, he just went.
Oh,
Here
yeah,
we go.
okay.
No, I don't. I think this is pretty straightforward based on what we discussed during last meeting. Sorry, I don't have any time. Oh, okay. Oh,
Answer my question.
okay. All right, so we need, two separate motions for each one of these projects.
I'll make motion to authorize William Mueller and Sons to complete the Kirchy Hill Drive and High Street maintenance work for $141,384.30.
We have a motion by Councilmember Henry.
I'll second.
We have a second by Councilmember McKnight. Any further discussion? All right, Mr. Mayor, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Henry,
Aye, Glenn Henry.
Councilmember Mock,
Aye, Christie Mock.
Councilmember Sayer,
Aye, Lori Sayer.
Councilmember McKnight,
Aye, Joy McKnight.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye, Courtney Johnson. All right, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have one more motion that we need here for the plans and specifications for the Carver Bluffs area.
I'll make a motion.
I can make a motion to approve the plans and specifications and ordering advertisement for bids for the 2020 street maintenance project for the street maintenance in Carver Bluffs Parkway and Carver Circle.
I'll second.
Perfect. We have a motion by Councilmember McKnight and a second by
Councilmember Mock.
Councilmember Mock. I'm sorry. Let's see. Any further discussion? All right, Mr. Mayor, can you please do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Henry,
Aye, Glenn Henry.
Councilmember Mock,
Aye, Christie Mock.
Councilmember Sayer,
Aye, Lori Sayer.
Councilmember McKnight,
Aye, Joy McKnight.
and Mayor Johnson.
Aye, Courtney Johnson. All right, motion passes. All right, 9.4. Thanks, Dan. 9.4, our COVID-19 phasing plan update. Mr. Merrick.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I don't have a lengthy update. I just wanted to kind of keep providing this as a space. We have notified the Black Sox that we've given them permission to use the cooler system within the concession stand. We've asked them at this time not to serve food out there, which.
Oh, hold on. Can you guys not hear?
Right?
Yep.
They can't hear you.
We don't hear you, but for a while the audio was really bad and then we didn't hear you.
Okay, let me.
As soon as you started talking.
Let's try this. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me better now? No?
We don't hear you.
Why is it?
We hear you say it. Now you're muted. Joy's laughing, but she's muted.
How about now? Better?
Like,
How about now? No?
super, super, super soft.
Let me try the podium.
Well, but isn't it
There.
picking up off of his computer?
Can you hear me now? Better? No?
Do you guys hear him?
What if I do this?
Joy's got a thumbs down.
But you guys can, no problem. Oh, okay.
Too
Okay.
good to be true.
Keep talking.
How about now, Brenda?
How about now, Brenda?
Let me try.
Brenda is on mute, but I could hear, we could hear you.
I'm just gonna get out of a cloud here.
If you can hear us, we're hearing Brenda from out in the hallway, so that's why you guys can't hear her.
How about now?
Apparently can't hear me either.
We can't put the chat the other line, we just can't do that.
Nothing?
We'll just,
No, I can hear you.
You can hear me now?
It's still a little quiet.
How about now? Better?
Slightly. I just saw a little yelling at us.
Yeah, I am.
We can hear you.
Don't make me come upstairs. Cullen heard me all the way from downtown.
And he's scared.
I'm not really sure what's happening. None of the settings are any different. I don't want
You're
to.
starting to sound better.
Oh.
How about
Keep talking.
keep talking?
Tell us a story.
A story.
Or you could just say your ABCs and maybe they would.
The family rented a jet ski.
Oh, we got thumbs up.
A week from great, and I didn't put any sunscreen on, or not enough, and so it looked like I was wearing a life jacket for the rest of the week. And everyone had a lot of fun making fun of me. Now the sound.
Yeah. All of Carver knows.
So, all right. So wear sunscreen. All right. So COVID-19 related update, again, just kind of holding this space for the council to ask questions. Or we don't have any additional guidance that would make us feel comfortable, at least at this point, to open up rentals. We're still at that 10 number for indoor gatherings. But again, want to provide a space for the council to comment on that. Back on the Black Sox piece, we're going to allow access to the concession stand so they can store their materials, but they're going to be selling them outside. Primarily, they just wanted access to keep their water and beer and soda in there, and then they'd sell them. But it's just kind of a hassle with the extra ice and stuff like that. So we're providing access in that area. As far as just the operation of the city, things are working really well. We have, as you probably have noticed, we have mobile hand sanitizer stations as well as CDC guidance as you enter the building. And I think from all indications, we're operating, at full tilt as far as providing services. We're still encouraging staff to work remotely, but we're also providing the option for folks that feel like they need to come in. Obviously, there's certain positions like public services where that option isn't as available, but for the admin team, building inspections, we're still providing those opportunities to work remotely when available. I'm in the office for most of the day, just operating. It's easier to get work done when you have 2 kids at home on summer vacation to be in your office. Well, I got to go to work, so see you later. But no, it's been working really well. But again, I want to provide an opportunity for the council to ask any questions or issue concerns or comments on how we're providing services during the pandemic.
Questions, anybody?
Well, I'll just comment. So personally, as a resident, we're doing some work with building inspections right now. We're trying to get something approved for on our property, and even though they're at home and working from home or working remotely, I should say, I found it to be a really easy process. So I think it's working out well. Response times have been really fast, and so I've appreciated that. So I think that the current model that we're using is working just fine, and until such a day that we can go back to more normal ways, I think it's working out. So thank you for getting the staff all set up and working so well together.
Lori, Joy? No? I want to echo and thank you for your feedback as a resident that everything's working well. I continue to be really proud, and will forever reference the meeting from a couple years ago where trying to dial in remotely was like trying to land somebody on the moon, and now we just do it. And there are a few hiccups here and there, like we just had a few minutes ago, but we're doing it like we've been doing it forever. I do want to leave some space for just a mask discussion. You came in with your mask, Heidi wore a mask. I think we're okay as long as we're sitting here and we're 6 feet apart. We may be pushing the 6 foot limit, Glenn. But I just want to leave it open. I am happy to wear a mask. If anybody feels comfortable, I think we've got a good enough relationship that if anybody doesn't feel comfortable or doesn't want to come in for whatever reason, that they don't. But I just want to kind of take the pulse of everyone as where you are for masks while we're in here and meeting.
I guess for me, a mask is a personal decision, and if you feel more comfortable wearing one, please do. But I don't think it's something for me that I'd want to say mandatory that we come in with mask on.
Right, I'm just saying I think, if all of us, if there's one person on this council who says, I would like to have everybody wear a mask, I would do that.
Yeah.
And I get, well, it's a personal
Yeah.
discussion, but I just want to, I guess I'm asking that question.
I don't see it necessary to have that across the board.
6 of one, half a dozen of the other, but I live dangerous. I'd rather not wear a mask.
Okay. Ladies, Lori, Joy, any thoughts? Joy?
I'm sorry, were you guys talking to us? It sounded like aliens had landed.
Did you get to any of that? Just wondering where you are on masks and council chambers.
So, if council chambers doesn't meet my personal criteria to wear a mask, so personal criteria to wear a mask is an indoor space where social distancing is not possible and it's a large group. So, large meaning, I don't know, more greater
Target.
than 10. So, it doesn't really meet my criteria. So, I would not feel the need to wear one in council chambers.
Okay. Thank you. Lori?
Yeah, for myself, I would be comfortable being in that room with others not wearing a mask. I myself would have one with me if it made others feel comfortable, but I most likely would not be wearing one. And I'm certainly okay with others around me not wearing one.
Okay. All right. Well, I just wanted to give some space just to have that conversation. And if that ever changes and we need to reevaluate, please feel free to bring it up. So,
Courtney, I had a question for Brent. Are we going to continue then to have the option with Zoom or in person? Are you planning on continuing that if our Zoom people can hear us?
Can you hear Joy, Lori?
It's really, really light, so
Okay, Joy, if I talk, can you hear if I talk this closely?
It's a little bit better.
A little bit better. All right. My question to Brent was, are we going to continue to have the option of Zoom and in person, and we can make our choice going forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things where a crisis has created probably an opportunity. I'm not sure if the legislature, I'm hoping that they change their, as the mayor mentioned, and I think Councilmember McKnight tried previously, it was very difficult to meet the criteria for a remote meeting. And so as long as we're under emergency.
are you guys hearing us? Lori, Joy? No.
So as you can tell, there's some things that
Now you guys are good?
we're gonna have to try to figure out. I've gotten some comments on this computer related to volume, but I think going forward, we'd want to provide multiple ways for people to interact. I think, frankly, it makes it easier for residents. We've been in a situation where we haven't had a lot of issues that I think residents are maybe particularly interested in. That might change when the UTV thing comes back, and so providing this room, but then maybe the village hall room downstairs with ways that people can participate. But having this is a really efficient way. But right now, and I think the city attorney can attest to, once we get out of the state of emergency, it goes back to the moon landing scenario. And so we'll be probably advocating with Representative Nash and Senator Jensen and the League of Cities to say, hey, this is a really great tool, and we shouldn't have to declare a state of emergency to use it. But it was so foreign to folks, I think, 7 months ago that we're kind of probably behind on where it should be.
I think it's important to realize when the emergency falls off and the governor's order falls off, we go back to the old rules. But the old rules don't necessarily apply to the public. You could still make Zoom available for the public to participate as long as the council's all here. So this is a learning curve. Everybody's looking at different ways to do it. And the standards under the open meeting law for participation relate to the council and the council all being present. we can continue, I think, to make Zoom available for the public.
Well, and can't, with open meeting law, that a council member, as long as they're in a public space, can participate remotely?
Yes, that's the issue of the mayor in a hotel lobby in Arizona, as I recall.
Yeah.
It didn't work very well. But yes, and I've actually had this issue come up, and it's not come up in Carver, but I've had this come up in 2 other communities in the last couple of weeks with council members that in those particular communities that wanted to know, well, what happens, can I go to Timbuktu and take care of my mother-in-law? And the answer is, well, not really. And participate. You can if you perhaps leave and go to the hotel lobby where it's a public spot. But those are going to be issues we're going to be wrestling with as we move out of the emergency. I mean, the governor's order right now goes through July 21st. I don't get to prophesize what the governor's going to do, but my tea leaves say he's probably going to continue it again. So we're probably operating under this is the new normal for some additional period of time. I'm just not sure how long.
Right. And one of the things I'll look into, there's kind of similar to what Councilmember McKnight is wearing. Like, there's probably a way to hardline a microphone into my computer rather than kind of relying on kind of this open source volume control. So I'll borrow
I
my.
can send you my specification.
All right. I'll steal my son's gaming headset.
All right. You good?
I'm good.
All right. Any other questions, comments? All right. Then let's move on to 9.5, the ATV UTV ordinance. Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a return from the first meeting in June when this issue was brought before the council. And in your packet, you have a memo which is basically designed to answer a significant number of questions that were asked by the council during that meeting. I won't pull it up, but I will go through with you because I was asked to come back with answers on certain issues. I attempted to do so. So I'll walk through those with you, and then that probably leads into a discussion somewhat similar to what we talked about last time is what do you want to do? What are the policy considerations once we get through this? And once I have a clear understanding of where the council is on a policy basis, then I'll draft an ordinance for you. So things that I was asked to find out the last time. These were all things like I go, most of these were, interesting questions. I don't know. Things. Can you use hand signals on an ATV or a UTV or a golf cart? And the answer is yes, but you can use them during the day. And it's legal to use hand signals during the day. It is not legal to use them at night. At night, they have to be done by a lamp or a device that's lit. So hand signals in terms of a safety device are only viable during daylight hours, sunrise to sunset. We got into an interesting discussion at the last meeting about the difference between ATVs and UTVs, and Councilmember Mock pointed out that the definition I had given you basically wrapped ATVs all into one. The state statute differentiates them into two, and I was asked to find out, is that significant? Does that matter? I didn't think it did, and it doesn't for your purposes. It's just how the DNR differentiates about what kind of ATVs can go on what trails. It doesn't have anything to do with an ATV to the city. I think is an ATV, whether it's a big ATV or a little ATV, it's still an ATV. We had a fair amount of discussion about the difference between an ATV and a UTV, and the council wanted to know if there's a statutory definition for a UTV. The answer is there is. Who knew? I put the statutory definition in your materials. A UTV is a side-by-side four-wheel drive off-road vehicle that has four wheels and is propelled by an internal combustion engine with a displacement capacity of 1,200 cc or less and a total dry weight of 1,800 but less than 2,600 pounds. Okay, big ATV, I guess. It doesn't have some of the criteria that you might think of more on a UTV. UTVs tend to have roll cages on them over the top, but that's not in the statutory definition, which I kind of thought was interesting once I got into it. Also, there's some overlap in the definitions of an ATV and a UTV that I can't explain to you why. Because UTV size starts at 1,800 pounds, but ATV size goes up to 2,000 pounds. So there's a 200-pound gap where if you're, one vehicle can be both under state statute. Not sure why. Don't know that that's particularly relevant to what the kind of decisions that the city needs to make. Questions on statutory operational restrictions on city streets. You know, what can, can't you do? What does state statutes say? Because right now you've got an ordinance that just says you can't do it. What the statute says is that the city, by ordinance, may, doesn't have to, but it may allow ATVs, UTVs, and golf carts operate on city streets from sunrise to sunset. Additionally, if that vehicle has OEM, original equipment, headlights, taillights, and brake lights, the city could allow it to operate after sunset. You don't have to. Those are your discretions. But you can't allow one of those vehicles that doesn't have OEM, headlights, taillights, and brake lights to operate at night. That violates state statute. Or early in the morning, sunrise to sunset, correct. And then there are I point out some other ones that can't, if the weather's inclement, they can't be out. If it's foggy, they can't be out. And, you know, there's some general statutory restrictions. But, you know, the city can impose, if the city does nothing, they're basically prohibited. That's kind of what, and that's pretty much consistent with the code says now. Within the parameters of the state statute, could you allow them? Yes. Do you have to be as lenient as the state statute? No. You can be far more strict than the state statute if you choose to. I mean, currently you don't allow them at all. You could continue to do that. You could say that, okay, they're allowed, but they're somewhat similar to your snowmobile regulations. They're allowed on these 3 corridors in town, and only during these hours. So you have a fair amount of discretion on those. I've done some, I'll call it layman research since the last project. High-end golf carts. Not the typical one you get at the golf course, but the higher end ones that are privately owned, tend to all have headlights, taillights, and brake lights. I didn't realize that until
What about turn
actually.
signals?
I've seen them with turn signals and I've seen them without. They don't have to have turn signals to meet the statutory definition. It's just headlights, taillights, and brake lights. It's not turn signals.
It's an option that you can choose, like you choose any option,
Yep.
or something like that.
Yeah,
so
the
it's not a
statute
standard.
doesn't, the statute, if the city was going to allow them to operate at night, the state statute says they have to have headlights, taillights, and brake lights. They don't have to have turn signals. You could require them to have turn signals. You get to be more restrictive if you want. There was a fair amount of discussion last time about how these are insured. An ATV and a UTV is not a motor vehicle for the purposes of Minnesota mandatory insurance. So it's not, you don't have statutory liability coverage on these vehicles. It's not like a car where you have to have insurance. Most of them are insured, but they're typically insured either on a separate policy or more frequently on a rider on your homeowner's policy. Yeah, it's motorcycle insurance is a really good example, Councilman Brenner. It's similar to that. You can buy standalone policies, or you have a rider on your house. Or a fishing boat would be another good example, where you just have a rider on your homeowners to cover that. So I will tell you that I would be reticent to see the council impose by ordinance an insurance requirement on these. You can regulate darn near anything you want under the police power. But if you regulate it, you better enforce it. Is the city really going to check to make sure that these things are insured? You're not going to. So, and the problem is if something really bad happens and the city has an ordinance that requires insurance, and we're not monitoring to see whether they have insurance, I don't want you in that spot. So I know that sounds a little funny, but I'm not big on cities adopting global feel-good ordinances and then not enforcing them, because candidly, there's some liability if you don't enforce your code. So those were the questions that I was asked to address. I give you proposed definitions of the ATVs and UTVs, which kind of follow the state definitions, which I think makes some sense and makes it a lot easier for, I'd recommend that you follow the state definitions because it makes it a lot easier for the sheriff's department if they're using, I mean, why do we want to have a different definition than the state definition? You know, it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's a duck. And so, but then you get into, then you get into policy issues. And I think that's really where the rub here is, what do you want to do? And, I want to be really candid about this. This is the point where I now have to listen. I mean, these are policy issues, not legal. You got to tell me what you're thinking, and I need to listen, see if the council, hopefully the council comes to some kind of a consensus, and then I can prepare an ordinance for you on what you want to do with ATVs and UTVs. And the one issue, we talked a little bit about this last time, probably any ordinance I draft would differentiate and make sure that mowing equipment isn't included, because it's kind of easy to wrap mowing equipment into this, and people need to be able to mow right in right-of-ways. So I'll cover that when I draft it. But at this point, I think it's really my place to listen.
All right. Thank you, Larry. So the way I see this, and I think to simplify it a little bit, I think maybe we should first attack the definition, and then we can kind of get into the policy part of that. How does that sound? Any objections? Okay, so moving first with the definitions that Larry wrote out. Does anybody have any questions or comments, or would like to see any amendments with those? Go ahead, Joy. Go ahead, Joy.
So by definition, are we just talking about the definition of ATV? Are we talking about? I guess here's my question. I want to better understand what city right-of-way means, or city streets, as Larry has used in his memo. Does that include every street within the city, or just city streets? That doesn't include like a county road, like Jonathan Carver Parkway, or County Road 40? What's the definition?
Joy, so for the county roads, they are allowed on the county roads, which would be Jonathan Carver and other
Okay,
Carver County.
but let me just reel us back. So I want to divide, let's just talk about the definitions, to update our definitions of what, like, in my mind, what we're going to tackle here first is step one, what are the definitions? We're not getting into kind of the regulatory side of things. This is just the definition. She can't hear me.
Oh, okay, I guess part of the definition for me is, what is this ordinance applying to? What streets? If we have an ordinance, does it apply to all streets within the city's boundaries, or does it just refer to city streets, not county roads?
Yeah, so Joy, on the packet, in page 3 of Larry's memo, at the top, there's a definition of, it's just defining what ATV means, because I think part of this is updating our ordinance to what ATV, and that's kind of what brought us here. So okay, we're not even getting to the part of
about the definition of an ATV.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So while we've got you, Joy, any questions, comments on the definition portion?
No.
Okay. Lori?
My comment would be, I like Mr. Larry Harrison's kind of counsel that we would just align with the state definitions. I would be comfortable with that.
Right. Thank you, Lori. I'm looking at her like she can see me when I look right at my. Glenn, Christie, any comments on the definitions portion?
I'm fine with the definitions as stated by the state of Minnesota. Why change it?
So I have a question. So if I'm reading this correctly, so the updated definition of ATV the council consider, so we're still calling this ATV, we're not singling out UTVs? Or?
There's going to be two definitions. There's going to be a definition for an ATV and a definition for a UTV. It's further down the page. Yeah, I think the mayor's just going through the ATV definition first.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, they're both in that section, the definition of ATV and UTV.
Okay.
Yeah. Any,
For the ATV part.
okay, and UTV.
Well,
Definitions are first,
gotcha.
we get to policy. So we're in the definitions portion,
Right.
ATV, UTV.
Fine with,
I am too. I have no objections, and I think that in my mind was gonna be the easiest part of this, but maybe not.
Nice try.
Right? I know. You're good, okay. Okay, all right, so moving on now to the policy portion of this. Underneath considerations for the council, I think Larry's kind of outlined 4 conversation starters, if you will, so. Who has questions, comments about those? Rush.
I do, but Joy's right.
Oh, go ahead, Joy.
I'm gonna ask my previous question. What does city right of way mean?
Okay, that's a really good question, because, and I'm not sure, Councilmember McKnight, what you can see in this room, because I'm trying to look at something for an example. Can she, okay, you can see me, can she see the public podium?
Yes.
Can you see the public podium, Joy? All right, I'm gonna walk over there and give you the best example I can. This is the right of way. This is the street.
Got it. And so when we say city right of way, does that include any city, any street within the boundaries of the city of Carver?
As this is drafted for a discussion point, yes.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
I want to make sure I understood that. So when it does say in here right of way, you're including right of way and the street?
Yes.
All of it, okay.
Yes, but that doesn't, I'm not advocating, that's just,
Right, but that's just what's the way it's written.
that's the way it's written.
Larry, can you just clarify there, I think Councilmember McKnight had a question related to Jonathan Carver Parkway, and so this would regulate, even though it's a county road, if it's in the city limits, it'd be subject to the city's ordinances related.
It would be subject to the city's ordinance if we prohibited it, yes.
Okay, thank you. That helps me understand.
Okay, well, I have a couple of comments unless someone else is ready. Go ahead. Okay. Obviously, we've been talking quite a bit about this ordinance. Larry, thank you for coming back with a lot, the answers to our questions that we asked at the last meeting. So when we say hand signals can be used, it's not after dark, and that's for any type, like
For
even
any
like
type.
a motorcycle or anything? Okay.
Well, I didn't look specifically at motorcycles. So motorcycles are licensed, titled vehicles. They're outside of the purview of this.
Okay. So, obviously, we've had a number of residents who contacted us, I'm assuming all. Some of the emails that we've got obviously have been sent to all the council members. So, I think that there is a great deal of interest in UTVs in the city. I think we've seen that. When I'm reading this ordinance, when I'm looking at, I shouldn't say reading the ordinance, when I'm looking at this information that can go into our ordinance for UTVs, I think that the fact that, although not licensed by at the DMV, they do carry an identifiable plate that's issued to them by the DNR. I have seen the plate on them. I'm not sure if it's required by the DNR that it has to be on there.
The plate issue is a DNR issue if you want to operate it on a DNR trail.
Okay.
So you don't have to have a DNR plate on it. You do have to have one on it if you want to operate it on a DNR trail.
Okay. So is that something that the city could require then to have that they would have that so we have an identifiable marking?
I don't know that we'd have the authority to do it, and I don't know that it gets back to what you do and don't want to regulate. I mean, are we going to verify that these particular devices have DNR tags on them? I mean, who's going to do that?
Okay. So I think the UTVs should be allowed. on our city streets. They have roll cages, they have headlights and brake lights, and they are by all means safer than most of the motorcycles that are on the road with roll cages and things like that. I know that something was stated at one of our last meetings about possible speeding and things like that. That's, to me, is an enforcement issue. That's no different than if we had cars or whatever else speeding up I'll just use 6th Street. I'm just going to say 6th Street because I looked at Glenn's. Speeding up 6th Street, I mean, that is an enforcement issue for our cop in town, as it would be for anyone who is breaking the law. I think it's important that they would be following all of the rules of the road as any other vehicle is expected to. The fact that they do have the safety options on them. We do have you would have to have working lights that are part of the vehicle if you wanted to drive it after sunset.
Or before sunrise.
Thank you, Glenn. So to me, if they have working turn signals, that's fine. They have headlights and rear lights and brake lights, the same as other vehicles on the road do at night. So as long as they had turn signals that worked, then I don't see why they couldn't be on the roads at night also. I do get that if the statute is that hand signals are allowed during daylight hours, that's the only time that they can be used, and if you don't have turn signals after that, maybe it's not appropriate. I just wanted to look at one other thing here. Operational restrictions. Okay. Do you want to get into additional vehicles like golf carts at this time, or you just want to talk about UTVs?
I'm fine with going.
Okay.
Whatever.
For me, golf carts, I don't know that I'm comfortable with saying golf carts are allowed on city streets at this point in time besides steamboat days. I don't know that they have the same safety specifications that the UTVs have. If someone has information for me out, contrary to that, I'd be happy to listen to it, but we don't have a golf community here. If we had a golf course with a certain, I guess, golf community that surrounded it, maybe it would be more appropriate there, but for golf carts, I guess I don't feel as comfortable with that being on the road. For UTVs, I think that they should be legal on our city streets. I think they have to follow the rules of the road the same way everyone else does. If they break the law, they're going to get pulled over and they're going to get a ticket. I do think that if you are driving one, you should be a licensed driver. So you, as you drive any vehicle, need to be 16 years of age or older and have a valid driver's license. I think that is important for anyone who's driving on our streets. But as for me, I don't see a problem with UTVs. What I see is families generally out having a nice cruise. I see kids and dads and moms just out for a nightly cruise, and I don't see any problem with it. So I will stop for now, and then I will come back in if there's more questions or answers that
I'm going to jump in. So I think you guys heard me when we talked about this before. My issue is turn signals. I think that these vehicles should have to have turn signals if they're going to be on our city streets. And I think something that you brought up, Larry, just to confirm that I'm understanding this correctly, that these UTVs don't necessarily have to have any licensure. They don't have
Correct.
to have a DNR tag.
Correct.
Okay, so for me, that's another big issue, that they don't have any identifying registration to them. So my short and sweet would be that that's not a vehicle that belongs on our city streets. So no to ATVs, no to UTVs, and no to golf carts.
My turn?
Yep.
My biggest thing is, after talking with insurance companies and UTV and ATV drivers, is they carry insurance on them like they do with motorcycles. They were like, oh, we're covered. I said, I don't care about you. That's the reality. If they're going to be driving on the streets and they get into a wreck, or they're at fault at a wreck, The reality is I'm concerned about who they hurt. Are they gonna be covered? That's my first concern. Second concern is when asking insurance companies, how can you verify the age of the drivers? They can't. If they have four people in the house, 2 of them are kids, and the kids jump on them all the time. So they're 13, 14-year-old kids driving around them. I don't want those kids driving on the streets. I would like to know that, like Christy said, licensed drivers driving on the streets. But in order to prove that, we need to be able to verify that, which would be an enforcement issue. But I look at, could there be a $30 fee for a tag that could verify when people come in to purchase their tag that they carry a valid insurance, just to prove that they are covered and they are of legal age to be driving. Counselor?
The question is, could you impose a regulatory scheme that does that?
Yes.
Where there's an annual permit, there's an application, there's proof of insurance, and dealing with, and could you issue a tag or a permit for it to operate in the city? You could do that, and there are cities that do that. It's an administrative burden. I mean, that's the issue.
Okay. As far as driving on the streets, I saw a youth buzzing down JCP the other day, doing about 60. JCP is also going to now be 4 lanes within a year and a half. That I'm going to have an issue with, and I think we should limit them to more of the city streets, because everybody that I spoke to, have had conversations with, is they're using them to go from their home downtown, from wherever they're at to downtown to get their whatever. Or they might be driving to neighbors and friends, but they're not buzzing they're buzzing 6th Street, which is fine. That's totally different. But on Jonathan Carver Parkway, when that gets opened up to 4 lanes, with the circle, with, I think keeping them off of JCP in Carver proper would be the right thing to do. I don't see that as someplace where they're just going for a joyride to go get their eats, their treats and stuff, and fill them up with gas. I know with snowmobiles, we just allow them 6th Street as an access, and they use the right-of-ways for driving through town. But as far as JCP, I don't want them on JCP.
Glenn, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
You just mentioned you saw them on JCP, but they were keeping up with the speed of traffic.
Yes.
Yes. So that would be similar to, let's say, a Jeep. Open, roll cage.
A Jeep's 2,500 pounds, more than that.
That's, yep.
Tomatoes, mud.
But I'm just saying, so they do have the capability to keep up with that kind of traffic. So.
I understand. But if we're going to do this, I want to keep the UTV and ATV drivers as safe as possible as well, because I've seen a golf cart hit at 40 miles an hour, 2 feet from me. It's not pretty.
Right. I received an email from a group, and maybe you guys receive it too. People take these on like road trips up north, and they're on county roads the whole way. They're not allowed on state highways. And, they go for a day, go up north and come back. And they manage to drive on busy roads, and it works out.
And in Wisconsin,
there's always the possibility of
in
an accident,
Wisconsin,
no
they
matter what
mostly
you're driving.
limit them to right-of-way travel, not on road travels.
Right. but we're not there.
I get that.
But I'm just saying that, you know, there could be an accident no matter what vehicle you're riding in,
Don't disagree.
so.
But those are my main things, Larry. Making sure that the users are of legal driving age and understand what the rules are, and that a $30, I don't know, whatever, pick a dollar amount, but a nominal fee just to verify A, they have insurance, and B, that they're of age. After that, and keep them off the seat.
Can I just play devil's advocate?
Absolutely.
And you're saying that, you know, so you've got a 13-year-old who will just, this mythical 13-year-old who grabs the ATV, UTV, and buzzes around town. What's going to keep them from doing that with your licensure? Gratia.
What's that?
What's going to keep them, even if they do
Their
get licensed?
parents.
But mom and dad goes in, I feel like the kids will still jump on the machine.
Then they're driving illegally on the streets.
Then it's
They
an
already
enforcement.
That's an enforcement issue.
They already are. So, okay. I won't split hairs. Lori, it looks like you are off mute and ready to go.
Yeah, well, I guess really just to give Mr. Larry here some direction, and definitely want to continue this type of dialogue. I support having an ordinance that would allow UTVs in the city. I prefer to prohibit the golf carts and lawnmowers. I prefer with the UTVs that we do not regulate, that we as a city require insurance. If we go the route of restricting the age to where they're at least 16 and have a valid driver's license, I would also like us to consider adding farmer's permit. You know, those that are, you know, whatever the requirements are, 15, you know, live on a farm, but I would like those to be included, or us to consider including those. A lot of this, I like that we're getting away from having the gray area. We need to get real clear on what we allow and what we prohibit. But we also need to keep in mind that if there's something that we restrict, we also need to be in a position to enforce it. So that's why there's some things that I feel really strong on what I would you know, support versus what I would restrict. Like another one would be I prefer to not restrict and enforce the time of day. You know, even if we're identifying it by sunset, sunrise, I would like to see a lot more of this be on the onus of the owners and the parental control. Let's put some of this back on them and just within the city say we allow one that we allow UTVs in the city, and then be clear on some of those other things. Let them decide, you know, when they're going to be on the roads, off the roads, which which roads, which time of the day. I'd like to just really get the comment to a lot of times, or for me anyways, I'd like to get engagement from the community. Yes, in my year and a half council has been the one topic that I've received, and that all of us, we've got a lot of emails that included all of us, from those that support it. Even had an email from, they live in the city of Cologne, but they're Dahlgren Township. So I mean, this is not just Carver, this is a community thing. We have those in the township area. So just looking at it from those perspectives, that's where I'm at, based on the information that we have. Is there anything I can clarify, or does that bring up questions?
So I think, just for me, Lori, I think there were just a few things that you said. As far as lawnmowers go, it was Larry's counsel that we allow those because city crews and others need access to the streets to mow the right of way.
So now it's gonna have like a lawnmower race or something.
No, I'm not going to be riding lawnmower down to downtown Carver for fun and recreation. It's for the use of, you know.
Okay, all right, I guess, okay. And then maybe if that's not an issue, then that doesn't even need to be included in here.
Yeah.
But I guess then I would say I would prohibit golf carts. But yeah, golf carts.
And then Larry, I was wondering if you could take, she mentioned the sunrise to sunset. It's my understanding that we have to be at least that restrictive for vehicles that don't have.
Yeah, I mean, you can't, well, once again, the city could, and it appears that there may be a majority of the council that wants to allow this in some function or another. You might just say, all right, if you're a UTV in Carver, and if you want to operate on our streets, these are our requirements. There's the state definition plus you have to have operating turn signal, which isn't in the state definition, plus you have to have a roll cage on the vehicle, which isn't in the state definition, and you have to have all those things before you get to operate on our streets.
Go ahead, Lori.
And we couldn't hear all of the licenses.
I'm sorry, and I'll do it again, Councilmember Sarah. I was leaned away from the microphone. I mean, ways you could do it. When I'm listening to the comments I'm hearing up and down council dais and via Zoom, council members have said, all right, we get UTVs, not golf carts, not ATVs, but comments were made that UTVs all have roll cages, which is generally true, they do, but it's not in the state definition.
Roll thingy?
Yes, roll cages. They have a superstructure over the top, and I now know quite a bit about UTVs and knew nothing about them a month ago. But yeah, they all seem to have roll cages, so it's not particularly onerous to put that requirement in. You could require that they have turn signals to operate. If you were going to let them in Carver, they have to have an operable turn signal. Yeah, I mean, you could do that if you wanted to, and then you get to impose whatever hours you want. I mean, that's a whole separate council decision as to these things get to run 24/7. Do they only get to run daylight hours? I mean, you can be more restrictive than the state. That's a council call. I just need to know, kind of have a sense on what the consensus is on that issue, so I know how to draft it.
There's been talk from, I think, Glenn and both Lori about having, and I could correct me if I'm wrong, about having it licensed here at the city. I can see one way that
We can't hear Christine.
oh no.
Get right in there.
Okay, how about now? Yep. Nope, they still can't hear.
Keep talking.
I'll just keep talking. I don't have any fun stories like Brent had.
Oh,
we're
good.
back on? Okay, all right. All right, so one thing when we were talking about licensing them here in the city of Carver, or just saying you could be just in the city streets, we only think of tourism as something that happens up north in Minnesota. However, we've received emails from people from surrounding communities who say, we drive our UTVs into Carver to spend our money. That supports our businesses here. I don't think that that's something that we should overlook, as how the ease of what we require or don't require. Those are technically, that is tourism dollars that is coming into the city of Carver, and I think that we need to be cognizant of the fact that those dollars are coming here. There's a little bit of, live and let people kind of live their lives. So I think trying to be overly restrictive with this is going to make even more problems than it's going to solve. I personally don't see that we have a large problem in the city of Carver right now with UTVs. Again, if they're driving without a license, that's a whole different issue. Again, it's enforcement. If they are speeding and not following the rules and regulations of the road, again, that is an enforcement issue. So I really want the council, I want us to be careful of imposing restrictions that are making, like I said, are solving a problem that may not entirely exist.
Let's not forget, right now, currently, they are illegal on the street.
They are, but if we make them legal through this, I'm talking about once we have them legal, I mean, they're operating now, right, illegally, but again, this ordinance is old, so most people may not have realized it. Is that
Ignorance of the laws, no excuse.
Would you have known, Glenn, with UTVs before this came
Okay,
up?
if you don't
Anyways.
mind, I'm gonna give Joy an option.
Yep, I'm just gonna finish this sentence. So I really don't wanna put really tough restrictions in that stop people from visiting our community or making it difficult to operate what can be seen as a fun, recreational family time in Carver. I will stop now so that Joy can have a say here.
Thank you. Just wanted to give her an option because all of us have had a couple at bats. Go ahead, Joy.
Okay. So my biggest concern is just safety. Safety for those who are driving ATVs or UTVs, as well as the other folks on the road, right? So, you know, I think I concur with a couple of council members about the proposal under number 4 that Larry Harris has about allowing these vehicles to be operated from sunrise to sunset unless the vehicle is equipped with those sort of safety features like lights and tail lights and brake lights and things like that from a safety perspective. I think that makes sense to me. I would like to see that included. I'm not super interested in having the city license any of these vehicles. It sounds like a lot of extra administrative load, other than just enforcing, you know, that these vehicles are obeying the other rules of the road, the speed limits, etc. What was my other comment? I don't really have a strong feeling any which way about golf carts. They appear to be part of the state definition, so I think I'm okay with that. My other, let's see if I had another point. Nope. I mean, I guess, you know, we did get a lot of emails, I think, from residents, and a lot of it seemed to be about UTVs. And I agree with all the comments that people have made that this is a community issue. These are people not just in our city, but at surrounding communities coming in and visiting our businesses and establishments via. These certainly seem like people who take a lot of pride in their UTVs and ATVs and licensing them, insuring them, taking good care of them, but wanting to use them in this recreational way. So I guess I support the state definition. I support allowing them in the city with the restriction on the sunset piece. I think that's about it. That's my guidance.
What do you mean operation only during daylight hours, Joy?
Yeah.
Even if
So,
they,
yeah, the language that Larry has in number 4 on his questions, he's got language in there that says we allow operation from sunrise to the sunset unless the vehicle is equipped with original equipment, headlights, taillights, and rear-facing brake lights. So that means that they can be utilized past sunset to sunrise.
All right, thank you, Joy. So I think, are we all mostly in agreement about no on golf carts? Working on what we're in agreement with?
yes.
No.
I mean,
Except for steamboat days.
right.
Correct. Joy and Lori, thumbs up, thumbs down on golf carts. Joy is neutral.
Oh, they can't hear us yet.
Can you hear me now? We're asking the question about if, I'm trying to figure out just the easiest areas where we might have a consensus, and it seems like we are all thumbs down on golf carts.
Correct.
I'm not feeling strongly either
Okay.
way, so I'll go with whatever the rest
Okay, I have 4 out of 5 with 1 neutral, so let's easily say no golf carts.
And I think under the same analysis, you're kind of collectively no on ATVs.
Yeah, let's confirm that. Are we thumbs up or thumbs down on ATVs?
ATVs have lights.
Yeah, but ATVs have no role. It's a totally different vehicle, and it's totally
Yep. different,
and it doesn't have the safety features of a UTV.
Neither do mine.
I'm a thumbs down on ATV.
Okay. Joy, Lori, now we're doing a straw poll on ATVs. Thumbs up or thumbs down?
I'm a thumbs down, really, just being reminded of safety concerns.
Yeah, I guess I'd lean thumbs down if safety is my biggest concern, as I said.
Okay. So with that, then just before I think I'm probably in the minority on thumbs down for UTVs. But being cognizant of the majority on this issue, I would really, really like to see something, so just to kind of add in some thoughts on the conversation, I think that I agree with, somebody said licensure through the city. I think that that's an unnecessary burden. That seems, again, like administratively just a headache, and I don't know that our role is to put more laws into place, and that just seems like a pain. I would like to see vehicles that have turn signals, UTVs that have turn signals and roll cages. I would like to have that specified in the ordinance. Glenn?
I would like everybody to understand that once upon a time, this council was always looking for revenue streams. And
We can't hear, Mr. Conrad.
once upon a time, this council was looking for revenue streams.
We can't hear anyone.
Speak up.
We're in trout fishing streams.
Just keep talking about your
Can you hear him?
Hello,
Okay,
hello, hello.
they're good.
Lori, you good?
Can you hear Glenn?
Lori? All right.
Can you hear me?
So there's these fishing streams down in southern Minnesota.
How about now?
Hello? Hello?
Now we can hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
You can hear Brent, but not me?
We can hear you now.
Okay. Once upon a time, councils have been looking for revenue streams. And I was talking with some people that when they travel out west, as in western Minnesota, Wyoming, and other states, the first thing they do is they go to the local municipality and pick up their $40 fee or their $40 tab. So that gives them access to run wherever they're going to go. And I don't see that as a deterrent or it's something that we can track, who's here. It is a revenue stream. Might not be large, but I don't look at it as an administrative burden, just to have that type of information on, who's in town. And it can also be used as a revenue stream source and not just a burdensome regulatory pain.
Let me comment on what Mr. Henry is saying. There's a problem with that. We as a city can impose a reasonable fee that defrays the city's actual costs in licensure and administration. I mean, we can't generate positive cash flow by issuing UTV licenses. I mean, we can figure out what it costs to do it and what it costs to administer it and charge a fee to make sure we don't lose anything on it.
Okay.
But it's not positive accretive cash flow to the community.
Well, if you can't have a revenue stream from it anyways, then that even more solidifies the fact that to me it's just going to be kind of an unneeded amount of work for our administrative staff to take care of if we're not going to be able to build a revenue off of it.
Well, and I also think that, again, the management of that and, the keeping track of who's in town makes me feel a little icky in a big government kind of way, which may not have been your intention, but I continue to not be for it. I don't think that, for the same reason that dog and cat licenses went away from this council, I don't think that enough people would actually come in and pay their $30 to get licensed.
And if you drove in on a weekend, you couldn't even get one. So.
And it wouldn't be on my radar as the Cologne resident that we mentioned to come to Carver to get individual city. I think it would be hard to make sure that it was.
I agree.
Thumbs down for me on Can you guys still hear us, ladies? Okay, just start waving. We'll keep an eye on you if you can. Sorry.
So knowing all that, is there any way, how would you propose to monitor how we can keep the youth, the underage drivers, on driving the UTVs through town?
Well, the ordinance will impose whatever age requirement you tell me to put in there, and then it's the responsibility of the sheriff's department.
I agree with Lori too. If you can get a farmer's permit for this, I don't know, then I think you should be able to be of that age too, but you would have to have that farmer's licensure permit also.
So I'm going to disagree with that as well. You know, I think that we don't have any farms in the city of Carver within our city limits, and I think, you know, I don't think that that's something that we should, I think you need to be 16.
Well, the question is, think about it this way, council. Is it an age restriction or is it a valid driver's license restriction? You can impose it either way you want. You might get a little more weight if you said you had to have a valid Minnesota driver's license. It could be a provisional license for a kid, but
I think a valid driver's license for me is the most important part. Because you could be, 20 and not have your driver's license yet, but you're still 20, so.
well, the other
it
issue,
happens, it's surprisingly kids,
Yeah.
they don't get their licenses.
but the other issue you want to be careful of in terms of doing this now, a UTV is and is not a motor vehicle. And so the issue is that if you've had your driver's license suspended or revoked for the usual and customary reasons that one gets their driver's license suspended or revoked, I'm not positive whether that applies to a UTV or not. But if you have an ordinance that says they have to have a valid DL, you're covered for somebody that's got a suspended driver's license.
I agree with that. If you don't have a valid driver's license to be on the road for whatever reason, it might be. And I don't think you should be driving, period, on the road. So to me, I'm fine with the valid driver's license clause.
And that'll cover the zero farmers that'll be driving around in Carver. I'm fine. I can be fine with that.
Let's just say somebody loses their driver's license for DUI.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken, they lose their privileges to operate a motorboat.
Yeah, and a motorcycle. I don't know. I didn't look at that one to see whether it also applies to a UTV or an ATV.
But because we can be more.
Well, as long as you're doing homework.
Well, but I think you cover it just by saying they have to have a valid DL. Because
Yeah.
if they don't, then we don't have to worry about it. That's the criteria, and that's the criteria if the sheriff stops them. You got a valid DL, boom.
You guys are hearing us? Are you good with the valid Minnesota driver's license requirement? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we're getting there. Roll cage. Thoughts on UTVs, of making that a requirement that we write into the.
I think it's reasonable for you to add it, and based on what I'm hearing, they have them.
Yeah.
It's not in the state definition, but I'm hearing council members say safety is a big concern. I mean, and I don't know why you just don't say they have to have a roll cage device.
Okay. Any objections to writing in roll cage, ladies?
No.
Christy?
No objection.
Okay. Roll cage, yes. Turn signals. Any objections to writing in a requirement for turn signals?
Lori's got her
Go
hand.
ahead, Lori.
Yeah, very new still this topic, but just on really just that community engagement and the outreaches that we receive. It seems like a majority of them have them, but I don't want just because somebody doesn't have one or they, I don't know, have an older model or a less expensive one. I don't want that to hold them back from being able to use them in the city. So.
I guess I agree with that. You had the sunrise to sunset that hand signals are.
Can't use hand signals from sunrise.
You can.
Sunset.
Cannot. From sunset to sunrise.
Okay,
Thank
yeah. I'm like,
Sunrise, sunset.
wait a minute.
Yeah,
You can use them in the dark. Okay.
You can't use them in the dark.
During daylight hours.
Yes.
During daylight hours, you can use hand signals. And
During
that's
daylight, yes.
by law, you can do that. So I'm comfortable with that. Can we, if I understood you correctly before, once it gets dark out by state statute, you have to have operational,
You have to have operational
Signals.
original equipment.
what you're saying is not flashlights.
Yeah, you can't tape them, you can't add them on, it's gotta be,
Okay.
but let's walk through what the statute says. But then I think you wanna do something a little more than that. The statute says it has to be OEM headlights, taillights, and brake lights. It doesn't say OEM turn signals, but pretty clearly there's a consensus on the council that at night you have to have turn signals. You can require that, you get to do that.
I'm not for requiring the turn signals because again, it's an option that you upgrade to, and maybe again, people have already bought them and they don't have them on them now. So I mean, these are $30,000 and $40,000 vehicles. So
But wouldn't you think that you would, if you intended to use them on the streets, you would want them to have?
yeah, I don't.
So
know.
for me,
I
it
can't speculate.
goes back to that safety issue. I don't think that, I mean, for the same reason that ATVs and golf carts don't belong on the streets if they don't have turn signals.
I'm fine during daylight hours. If they use hand signals during daylight hours, it's no different than if a motorcycle comes through town, they can use hand signals during daylight hours. And then after dark, I'm sorry, Lori had her hand
Yeah.
up, so.
Speaking of hand signals, go ahead, Lori. Go ahead, Lori.
Yeah, and I don't want to dismiss the safety, but I'd rather put the decision back on the driver of the UTV.
Joy, thoughts on turn signals?
So I'm assuming, it's been a long time since I took my driver's ed course, that you're supposed to signal your turn in whatever way possible, using either the turn signals on your vehicle or hand signals if those are not working. So if from an enforcement perspective, we're enforcing rules of the road, then I think we have that to set the ordinance for us from a safety perspective. I don't know, again, I know safety was my biggest concern, and I feel like I need a road safety expert to help review this. I don't know.
Well, I think the big unknown and the unfortunate that none of us here really know is whether UTVs have turn signals or not. I'll be blunt, I don't know.
Some do.
And I don't know if they're,
Similar to motorcycles, some do, some don't,
Yeah,
right?
it's not
No, all
standard.
motorcycles.
You can't-
oh, all motorcycles have turn signals. They've had to have turn signals for over 20 years in Minnesota on a motorcycle.
Okay.
Yeah. It's my understanding, Joy, that if they're not standard, they can come with it. It's like an upgrade that you would choose,
Got it.
is my understanding.
If I can
Yep.
try to bring this to, I mean,
You can try.
what I'm hearing is there's really two options. There's one that you would allow them to operate during daylight hours using hand signals, and then if they wanted to operate after dark, they'd have to use signals. So that's one option. Or you just say they can only operate during daylight hours. Those are your two options. So only during daylight hours. I guess there's a third. I mean, what I think the mayor is suggesting is that they can only operate unless they have signals full time. Was that correct?
Yeah.
So those three. So it's you can choose one of those three: signals full time, signals only at dark, or you can only operate during daylight hours. So if you-
Option B. That is, they must have signals after dark.
Okay, so operate during daylight hours.
Daylight hours, hand signals are approved, and then
After dark with signals.
with signals.
Mayor, your choice.
My vote is must have turn signals.
Councilmember Henry,
I'm fine with B.
which is operate during the day
With hand signals, because
And then
it's
if you wanna
illegal,
operate after dark,
you have to
have
have it
signals.
OEM approved,
Councilmember,
installed.
Councilmember Sayer,
Operate during the day with hand signals, and then after dark, before sunrise, require the turn signals.
okay, so B, Councilmember
Yeah.
McKnight,
Same as Councilmember Sayer. B.
All right, so I think you,
I have enough to get a draft.
do you, okay, is there anything else that we want to talk about for 30 more minutes?
No.
No? Okay.
so if I can just get a.
Oh, yes, there is.
Expectation for council, so there's two ways we can do this. We can have the city attorney prepare a draft and have you review it during work session, which I think is probably the better option, or you can take it and take the draft and we can post notice for it and you can take action right away, which would be on probably the 3rd of August maybe, but it might be I'm not sure how long it would take you to turn.
Oh, I can turn it so you'll have something to look at for your next meeting or your next work session. It strikes me as one that's hard to put right on the agenda for adoption, because I think when you get into it, you know, it took a while for the council to get through this issue and get to some type of a consensus. There's going to be some splitting and reviewing of the words, so I'm not foolish or naive. I think this probably comes through you twice, not once.
I agree with that. I know it's not our first choice, but I do think that we have probably talked about this for an hour, and I can't imagine that we will all be on the same page when we see the first draft.
Okay, I'll have something for you for your next meeting. Is there going to be a work session at the next one? I'll have a draft out in time for the agenda for that.
You have what you need from us?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Moving on to, and Brent, you're good?
It is.
Yeah, council members, or Mayor Johnson, sorry. Since and Larry, correct me if I'm wrong, we kind of hashed over the main points of this during this meeting. And though we all don't agree on everything, I think we came to get a consensus that allows Larry to draft the ordinance. Do we think that we really need to review it through a work session again? Because the major points have kind of been nailed out. There may be a few wording, you said splitting hairs, but those could we could change those during the meeting if it was something that was that outside of the realm of what we talked about. I just feel like we kind of hashed out our major points already tonight, so rather than delay it any longer if we don't need to.
I serve at the will of the council.
And the rest of the council, I'm not sure how everyone else feels about that.
I'm okay. I think it would be, I get your urgency and I get you wanting to move this as quickly as we can. I just think that procedurally it would be better to be able to discuss it again before we have it open to a public hearing.
Okay.
There will not be a public hearing for this. There's no requirement for a public hearing for this
Not an
ordinance.
ordinance review?
We post a notice.
Yes, we do have to post the notice by state statute that the council's considering adopting an ordinance, but there's no public hearing for
Okay.
this.
However, that does not change. I just think that
Mayor,
I'm okay with seeing it twice.
okay, Mayor Johnson, I am fine with whatever the consensus of the council is. Would you please ask the rest of the council if they have any?
Yeah, I'm working my way
feelings on
around.
that? Yeah,
Yes.
just asking, thank you.
Yes. Joy, you're off mute. Or I'm sorry, Lori.
I'm comfortable with having it at a council meeting. I think too, there's gonna be, just the amount of public engagement in the community that we've had, surrounding communities. I'd like to move forward with, having that draft of the ordinance, included in the next packet if possible, or the packet after. Gives you a few days to look at it, and then, have it on the agenda for the actual city council meeting.
The issue with trying to do this at the next meeting is going to be the 10-day notice.
Yeah, we can't get it for action at July 20. We can get it for August.
Which meeting is about attending those,
Then I guess that takes care of
I
that.
was gonna say
no.
something could.
The question is
Right.
if
So it
you-
lends itself to work session. Okay. Are we all, just show of thumbs, understanding that there's no way we would be able to get a draft ordinance in 10 days and get it posted? And
Well, excuse me, Mayor and
Yeah.
Council, my point was that if, more than likely, if you had edits at your July 20th meeting, that might kick it even further back, so, depending upon what the
Yeah.
complexity was. Okay, so if you're fine with that, then,
Because your next meeting after July 20th is August 3rd. I mean, the edits at the work session, I would anticipate
Okay.
the next day I've got a revision back to you. I mean,
yeah,
it's
so
not gonna be-
then the final action, August 3rd, wouldn't change whether or not you looked at a draft on the 20th.
we're all good with that? 'Cause it kind of has to be
Okay.
that way.
Yep.
But I do think it would be, we'll want to get this out, because I understand the council's got a lot of comments. I'd like to get this out as soon as possible after the work session, so that residents and other interested parties have a chance to chomp on a little bit and be prepared for the 3rd if they so choose to.
They're running illegally anyway, so it's not gonna stop them from doing
Well, they're getting pulled over at
Well,
this.
think of all the revenue we can get between now and then if they're running illegally. Okay, let's see, moving on. Moving on, communications, 10.1, race and equity training. So this is on me. This kind of comes from the last 2 council meetings that we've had. I have talked about race and equity and, making sure that everyone is treated the same way in our community. Last summer, I had the opportunity through the district leaders group, which is city managers or administrators and mayors, and then folks from the sheriff's department and from the school district, who we all participated in a foundational workshop, which was led by folks from the League of Minnesota Cities, and it was the curriculum from the Government Alliance for Race Equity, which is GARE, as you said. This is something that I would like to have us do on a broader level within the city. So the objectives of this training are to gain awareness of the history of race, implicit and explicit bias, and individual, institutional, and structural racism and how it impacts our lives. The second one is be able to identify instances of implicit and explicit bias and individual, institutional, and structural racism, and then be motivated to take action. At the training, we opened it up broader than the District 112 community leaders. So Aaron was there, Vicki was there, Brent and I was there. Essentially it was department heads from the city of Carver, but I want to broaden that and have all city employees and commissioners as well as the full council be able to attend. So that is what I want to float in front of the council tonight, if you will. With all of that, the one asterisk behind that is this whole COVID situation. So the league is still working with the folks at GARE and trying to figure out how they are going to proceed. I feel pretty strongly that this is a training that would take place better face-to-face if we can do it, so I am okay with waiting a little bit if need be, but that's kind of the asterisk behind everything here, is that it could be a little bit before I think we're in a place where we can kind of get everybody together and do the face-to-face training. So
Is that like an all day, a half day,
it's
an hour?
4 hours.
4 hours.
Yep.
And when do they normally do that? Is that a daytime thing, or how do they schedule that?
I think that they can schedule it however we would like. We did it on a Monday afternoon, but I think that they're pretty flexible with their facilitators.
So is it something that they are going to, considering COVID and everything being online, will they have like a pre-recorded session, or you don't know yet?
That's what they're going back in. Yeah, that's the TBD.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. So I don't hear any objections to moving forward with this.
Well, I'm not overly excited about it. I think a lot of this is overblown. Are there race issues? Yes. Are we further than along than we were back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s? Absolutely. But I think it isn't as, where it's blowing up now is, I believe it's gotten way more political and about destroying our culture and our history more than it is about actual racism and how it affects people. And I've talked to a lot of people about it. I've got a lot of friends, African American, Indian, Oriental,
Oh, God. Glenn
and they're
is
blowing
Asian.
it, and they are blowing it all out of proportion. I'm sorry, it to me, I believe that this is more a waste of my time.
So, Courtney, maybe it's something that you offer to the group, and who feels comfortable joining, then we attend, and if on the council level you're not comfortable joining, then
We can absolutely do that. Unfortunately, I feel folks who use some terms that Glenn just did are perhaps in need of the training more than anybody else. However, I'll respect Glenn's privilege to not attend. Joy, Lori, do either one of you have, Joy, go ahead.
I just want to make a comment. I mean, as you described, this training is not just about racial inequity, it's also about implicit bias. As part of my work, I have attended implicit bias training that has, it's not just about race, it's about so many other things, because we are all much more complex human beings than that. And I found, I and many of my colleagues have found that training incredibly valuable, just to question our implicit biases that we all have and try to think of ways that we can overcome them. So I applaud more training and more thinking about it, because I think we all have it, whether it's about race, whether it's about sex, whether it's about just a billion different things. So I applaud, again, more training and more thinking about that as we approach our day-to-day.
Thanks, Joy.
So thank you for offering that to us.
Thank you, Joy. And just to kind of to what Joy was saying, and maybe I didn't say it very well, but I'm happy to, I have this in email format, and this was kind of the agenda for the training that we took last summer. Part of what we went through is just kind of even thinking about, is there there's a quadrant of institutional explicit, institutional implicit, individual explicit, individual implicit. Are there any city policies that might not be completely kind of neutral, or where we may treat people differently depending on what happens? And just kind of coming up with more equitable, thinking about things through a more equitable lens. So, but with that, Lori, did you have any feedback?
No, I just want to know what it is. I was already looking forward to it.
All right, thank you. With that, why don't we, let's see, I'm gonna just continue with my communications updates if y'all don't mind. Sorry. Let's see, on July 29th, we had the community leaders group. Speaking of that group, we met the new superintendent, Lisa Sales Adams. And if it tells you anything about this woman, the first day of her contract was, I think it was July 1st. This meeting was June 19th. She's working like 2 weeks before she's contractually obligated to be working. So she is really digging in. She's hired a couple of principals. So it was just good, albeit in a really virtual, setting, which is the norm these days, but really good to meet her. So it says a lot that she's already working on things. We had the Carver Business Alliance meeting. Joy, I'll let you give an, or no, Joy was not there.
We
Okay.
didn't have one since our last council meeting.
We did. It was on June 19th. Maybe you weren't there. It was a good meeting. So the attendance for folks continue to show up, and we have a really good group there. 2 donations that were in the consent agenda that I wanted to recognize. We got a really, really nice flag that we can all see from Brian from the Carver flag company, which is really cool. He just lives a block up the hill. So he wanted to donate that, and it's a really, really nice addition. And then we got a thermal imaging camera from the Carver Fire Relief folks. After going to the farmer's market in Chaska a few weeks ago, I very casually said to the folks at the chamber who run that, like, this is great, when do we get one in Carver? And she was like, oh yeah, we can do that. So working with them to see if we can have something. It would be too soon for 2020, but to see if we can do a farmer's market potentially in Community Park for 2021. So more on that. And then the only other thing that I have is that Southwest Transit resumed their routes today from Carver Station. So with all the COVID stuff, they are very, very literally at 5% of what their ridership used to be. So this is the first step on the upswing. They are doing routes now from Carver, like I said. They're not expecting to see a tremendous jump back up in ridership until the fall when school starts, because there's the anticipation that more people will be going back into work. So that is it for my updates.
I don't have a lot. We have an HPC meeting next Tuesday. There'll be a few items on there actually, so it's not often that we have kind of a full agenda, but it looks like we're going to have a number of items on there. Trying to, oh, Brent, this is a strange update, but I did get an email from someone who said that the free little library at Gazebo Park is full of wasps. Ooh. So I don't know if they can spray that out. That's like reaching your hand into the hornet's nest, literally. So.
Hornet's nest.
Chad is still on, so.
Oh, yes, Chad.
Chad, if you need any help with that, don't call me.
Yeah. Or me, don't call me either.
Christila's right there.
Yeah. No, I don't.
You guys?
Yeah,
Thanks,
that's all.
Okay.
thanks, Chad.
Glenn?
We did not have a planning commission meeting, so hopefully we have one this month. Anything coming down the pike?
Yes.
Well, that's on your list. I have nothing.
All right. Lori?
Just a couple of things. You mentioned, Mayor Johnson, that a flag has been donated. I haven't been in City Hall to see it, but I'm familiar with Brian's artwork, and it was on our consent agenda, so thank you to Brian from Carver Flag Company for donating that. And also kind of in that theme of local artists that are here to Carver. Mary Williamson is a multimedia artist. She is, I don't know the full details, but I know she has a website and a Facebook page for the Ripple Art Studio and Gallery. So I just think that's just something to commend them. Thanks for contributing to our community. Thanks again, Brian, for that donation. And also just to commend those that have sent emails and told us their input, the usage for the UTV. They must be a tight-knit community group, but there was, I was impressed and just appreciated them reaching out. But and also always want to hear both sides, so anyone else, please continue to send those emails. That's all.
All right. Thanks, Lori. Joy?
You're right. Mayor Johnson did have a meeting. I'm sorry, my calendar just time melts. So I just find my notes from our business council meeting on the 19th. It was a good meeting, good positive. I just really enjoyed hearing again from even some of our newer businesses like the bait shop of how well they're doing, how much business they're getting, even in these times. And I also loved that they had some inter-business collaboration as they were giving out beer tokens to Harvey's while making custom lures. So while customers were waiting, and all of us were like, we have to do more of that. We have to do more of that kind of business collaboration. So a lovely group. I just am really encouraged by these businesses that continue to do so well during these very trying times. So just that's all I have.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just a couple items. To Councilmember Henry's question, within the last month, we have had a staff meeting with the folks from Timber Creek, or what we all have called traditionally the Song property. They made it through their EAW process. They're looking at making some lot configuration changes or kind of layouts based on the EAW findings and staff comments. But we had our team on board as far as giving them feedback on different questions. So I'm expecting to see something probably going into the fall, maybe an annexation petition sometime this fall. So kind of in that same area.
Brent, can you remind me, that's the one that kind of comes up along those big bluff lines?
It's directly west of Ironwood Park, so you can get to it by going down Monroe and Ironwood Drive. But the southern tip of it, yes, goes into a pretty significant bluff area.
Okay, that was the initial plan that kind of had some random little lots over there by itself?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And on that specific area, that's property they don't own at this point, so you're probably not going to see that in the next edition. Kind of in that same area, Jessica Archer, the building official, has sent out a plan review letter for the Quick Trip building permit application. So from all indications, they put up a building pretty quickly, so should probably start seeing some movement on that the next month or so. We're really digging into, or will be, the Federal CARES Act. The city's going to receive some money for authorized purchases, but just really kind of combing through the details of what's authorized and what's not. And so I'm hoping to provide a report to the council at your July 20th work session with how that would relate to Carver. Essentially, we're getting a pot of money. There are eligible projects or reimbursements within that. Anything that isn't eligible or that we don't spend by the end of the year, we have to send back to the federal government. So we're going to be working through that. We're also going to be providing the council with an update on the water treatment plant. We have a virtual open house planned. We're also taking appointments with adjacent residents to the water treatment plant. But we have a video that's been produced by or created by Bolton and Mink. And Dan and Chad are kind of leading the way on that, but we wanted to give we'll send you the open house materials prior to the open house, so you have them just in case you're contacted by a resident in advance, but we'll give you the council a whole overview at your July 20th meeting. I've also invited Chief Trimbo and Deputy Sandberg, Katie Sandberg, to your July 20th meeting to give a public safety report on what's going on in the community. And then finally, just wanted some feedback from the council. Right now, we don't charge anything. Food trucks can go into city parks and kind of park in the parking lot. Typically, when we do issue them a transient merchant permit. Typically, let's say they'd go into the Carver Dental parking lot, they'd need a transient merchant license as well. But oftentimes they're and I don't know this for a fact, but oftentimes they're charged by that underlying property owner or some type of rental rate. And with the city not charging, just wanted to bring that to the council's attention. If we're inadvertently stacking the deck against a private property owner that has a parking lot and able to do that, or if we want to facilitate, more food trucks. It just came to my attention from the Carver Square parking lot to Community Park, and now there was a coffee user. Now we've since had another coffee user ask if they can put a coffee mobile unit or truck in Carver Station's parking lot this fall. So just wanted to kind of reach out to the council and see if that's something that you're interested in applying a fee. We'd have to go through a ordinance process, but I wasn't sure how to answer the question, I wasn't comfortable with going forward based on what I know in the ordinance right now. So I just wanted to tee that up to the council to see if you had any perspectives to share.
So they do need the transient.
Correct. It's under $50, I believe. It's good for a year. We do a criminal background check through the sheriff's office. am I missing anything?
This is what time where I would be interested to see if other surrounding cities have anything that they're doing, just to see if we're in line or out of line.
See, I feel like we don't have a ton of food options now, and especially, I know that we can't paint the brushstrokes of, say, coffee truck, but I think that we're at the point where we're small enough that I don't want to do anything to dissuade
I don't either.
a vendor
I don't
to
either.
come to town. So, I don't think maybe in a year or two, or if we get too many, although I don't think there's any such thing as too many food trucks, but I think that this isn't the time, in my opinion, to figure out if we should be charging them additionally. I think we should be welcoming them with open arms.
As long as it's not interfering with things that are happening at the park or whatever it might be, I'm just fine with that.
I've dealt with this issue in quite a few communities. I think what I'm hearing from the council is spot on. Don't create a solution in search of a problem. I mean, if it becomes significant enough, it's an issue, then get into it and regulate it, because I've had cities that have gone into it full bore up front. It's got a really chilling impact on whether the food trucks come in.
Lori, Joy, do either one of you have thoughts? Lori?
No, I got cut out. But I like Mayor Johnson's kind of point or direction she was going on. Let's not make this restrictive, if I was catching that right.
Okay.
Whatever we can do to encourage maybe a little less government in this area.
Okay, and you said that Larry cut out when he was speaking.
Oh,
Because you cut out when you said it. Is that what you said?
Uh-oh.
yeah.
Okay. Larry essentially said that he has seen cities overregulate this to their detriment.
Okay. Yeah. No, I don't want us doing that.
Okay.
So.
Joy, thoughts?
I'm the same.
Okay.
It's not regulated.
Glenn? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and Council. That's all I have.
Right. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilmember Mock
Second.
and a second by Councilmember Henry. Any further discussion? Mr. Mayor, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Henry,
Aye, Glenn Henry.
Councilmember Mock,
Aye, Christy Mock.
Councilmember Sayer,
Hi, Lori Sayer.
Councilmember McKnight,
Hi, John, I think.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye, Courtney Johnson. All right, motion carries. Good evening, everyone.